Okay. Just want to introduce the team that's presenting today. My name is Doug Campbell. I'm the Director of Business Development here at Five Star. Corey Seaman, VP of Technology and Research Services, will also be presenting today and answering any technical questions you may have around Power Platform. Just a shout out to Corey. I think Corey was the first employee of Five Star, actually back in 1997, if memory serves, and greatly appreciate all of Corey's talents and support over the years to us, the team, and to our clients as well. He's certainly been an excellent individual, part of our team. So certainly appreciate him taking time to present here as well. Okay, just kind of want to run through some housekeeping issues for today. The overall webinar should be about 55 minutes to an hour. We're going to be respectful of everybody's time. The demos that we're going to provide to you today are pre-recorded. So we do ask that if you have any questions, please post those in the chat. If you could, I think there might be two chat options. If you could post those in the moderator chat option, certainly appreciate that. Lou Camerlengo, our moderator, will be moderating those questions. And after each demo, we're going to have an opportunity to answer a couple questions. But certainly at the end of the webinar, we're going to have a Q&A period. We're going to be able to answer your questions. If we're not able to answer all of the questions, we'll certainly follow up with everyone with detailed information to provide some clarity and guidance to some of the information that you're seeking. The webinar is being recorded, and we will be sending out a recorded link to everyone. So at your leisure, you can take a deeper dive into the webinar so you can explore some things that you might have missed during the presentation. Okay, just a quick comment about Five Star Development. We're a software development firm here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We focus on three primary areas, working in enterprise solutions, helping companies centralize their workflow, optimize processes. We've been building out enterprise solutions on Microsoft platforms for well over 25 years. And we also work in a wide range of different types of platforms. We're really technology agnostic in a lot of ways. We do have a Salesforce practice as well. So if anyone has a Salesforce CRM that you manage and are looking to implement new things around Salesforce, we can certainly support you in that area. We get involved with our clients in scaling workforce technology platforms, primarily in the career pathways and job training, job matching type platforms. And we also work with our companies to help them modernize their legacy systems, whether it's improving an existing system that they have or helping migrate that system onto the cloud or a new type of technology operation. And I also wanted to mention that we are part of a larger ESOP organization out of Cincinnati, Ohio, called Revision Collective. And we're part of a family of two other companies, one company out of Dayton, which is called SimpleSoft, which is an Infor CRM implementation company, and also Engage, which is out of Cincinnati, which is an IT and technology consulting company. Okay, so let's just kind of go over a little bit about Power Platform. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. You can see there on this slide, Power Platform is a wide range of different types of products. Power BI gets into business analytics, dashboards and reporting, data sharing. Power Apps gets into, you're able to create a wide range of very simple to highly complex apps on Power Apps that you can share with your team and within your business operations. Power Automate obviously gets into automating different workflows and processes between systems. Power Virtual Agent and Power Pages, you can get into organizing chatbots and things like that on your web page where you can respond to your customers in a timely manner. Really what we want to be able to emphasize are a couple big key themes for today that you'll begin to see throughout the demos that are provided. Power Platform is a low-code platform. And what I mean by that is really a drag and drop type interface that enables you to build platforms if individuals are tech savvy, even non-tech savvy individuals. It enables you to build those solutions very, very quickly. Think about it from a MVP, a minimally viable product type of concept, where you can launch the solutions very, very quickly, begin to test those solutions, get feedback from your team, begin to improve it, and then scale it as you see fit and add some additional complexities to that solution to be able to meet your business needs. One of the things you'll also see throughout these demos today is that AI is embedded and built throughout all of the different applications. One of the things, it's sort of a natural language narrative type feature where you can begin to describe within AI what you want to do for each solution, and AI will help you develop that type of solution. It's very intuitive, and the demos will be able to call out some of the AI functionalities. And of course, within Microsoft, you can leverage all of the solutions independently, or you can connect them into the other Power Platform systems such as Power Apps and automate, and also the wide range of other solutions that Microsoft has throughout their entire ecosystem. It is also available on desktop, web, mobile, and tablet. So there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how you can go about deploying the solution to all of your team. Okay. All right. So what we want to do now is just kind of go through the Power BI review. Corey developed a really nice demo for us to be able to go through and help you understand how to utilize Power BI from a data analytics and a data visualization tool. So let's go ahead and play that demo. And if you have any questions, certainly please post those in chat, and we'll answer your questions at the end of the demo.
Doug, could you remove your toolbar, please?
I will, yes, thank you.
Okay, we're going to take a whirlwind tour of Power BI. We're going to cover the core concepts around building reports with Power BI Desktop. We're going to take a dive into the interface and talk about how to pull in and prepare your data and go over some of the basics of working with visualizations and actually building reports. There are a lot of examples out there, and the best way to learn this product I've found is by jumping in and playing with it. So I strongly encourage you to do that once you've had this tour. We are going to have to move very quickly to kind of get through everything, so I apologize for that. When you open up the actual application, it's free to download and free to use. You'll see that you're presented, you may be prompted to log in. You can log in with a Microsoft work or school account. And your initial view here is actually the file menu, where you can choose to create a new report. You can jump right into Get Data, which is where you're going to connect to a data source and pull in your data, or you can open an existing report. We already have an existing, almost finished report here. We'll take a look at the process to get data as if you were starting from scratch here in a moment. The interface itself is pretty common if you're familiar with Microsoft products like Microsoft Office. You have a menu bar up top, as well as a ribbon below it that give you access to commonly used tools. And you'll see that the contents of these will change depending on the context that you're in, which consists of a report view, a table view, and a model view. You'll spend most of your time in the report view. This is where you actually work with the contents of your report and the visualizations that are in it. And in here, you'll see that there's also some panes on the right side. There's a filter pane, a format pane, a data pane. The actual panes that are visible are going to vary, again, based on context, and their contents will as well. So you can see if I change the visualization that's selected, you'll see that the format changes because we're changing the properties of that visualization that's selected. And you can also see that in the data pane over here, it gives little check marks to say, hey, there's data inside of this table that is utilized by that visualization. You also have at the bottom the ability to switch back and forth between desktop and mobile layout view. And there are also tabs that will let you switch between pages of your report. Usually those pages are kind of independent views of different things that you're looking at in your data. Sometimes they can have interdependencies too, but usually they stand alone. So to actually start, you will click Get Data with a new report, and you can also add data at any time to an existing report. You'll see that the common data sources that are here include spreadsheets, databases, text files, the web. You can actually put in a URL for a page that may have a table of data that you want to pull in. You can do that, as well as more advanced things like OData feeds. And if you have something like a custom API that your company uses or a service that may not be listed here, and we can help you kind of navigate how you would get that data into your report. But almost anything you can imagine that's out there in a file or through a service on the web is going to be accessible. If what you want is not there, you can say get more, and you'll be put into this get data dialog, which lets you select by kind of subcategories of different data types. And you can also search if you wanted to find SharePoint lists. Just type in there and you can find it. So we're going to just use a simple Excel workbook. And the next thing it's going to take me to is the ability to select where that file is, and then to a navigator. This navigator will let me choose, depending again on the data source. In this case, because there can be multiple sheets in a workbook, there's only one in ours, but we're going to select that, and it's going to give you a preview of the data. The other thing you may run into is a need to authenticate, in which case it'll give you the ability to authenticate in a bunch of different ways, depending on what that service supports. And what we're doing here really is building a data connection, and that data connection is going to be persistent. It's going to live inside of your report, and this is going to let you, whether it's in a file or on the web, it's going to let you be able to go back and access that data source later on. And if a record is removed or added or changed, when you click refresh in your report, it's going to be able to retrieve that data and pull in the fresh data with changes. And what we can do from here is click load or transform. I'm going to choose transform data because I want us to take a look at the Power Query editor. You may be familiar with Power Query. Again, this is another one of the contributions from Microsoft Office. This shows us all of the queries that pull in data into our report. The employees one is what we just selected here. It gives us, again, a completely different set of options in our ribbon up top. And this is for cleaning up, transforming, combining, splitting, doing a bunch of different formatting changes or other things that you might want to do to your data as it's in the process of being imported into your report. You'll see that over on the right side here, there's some steps that are applied. For our case, let's say, we have a column here that has a full name of our employees. We can choose to split that up. And again, all these tools are fairly intuitive to use. And it splits it into two name columns. So we'll call one first name, and we'll call the second last name. And then you can see that our department data is all lowercase. So what we can do is go over to transform and choose format and then capitalize each word. And it's going to apply both of those things. You can see the steps that we just completed. They're represented in a script up top, but really this will let you keep track of everything that's done. And really every time you do a refresh of your data, these steps are going to be applied to make sure that your data is transformed in that way and it's in a format that you can use cleanly inside of your report. So there's a lot of stuff to explore in here, but the way that we apply the changes that we just made is to click close and apply. And you'll see when I go over to the table view, which we haven't looked at yet, it gave me a notification that the data was being loaded. And over here in the table view, this is the ability to look at the raw data that has been pulled in from your different data sources. And it's accessible by choosing the different table names over in this data pane on the right side. So you can see our split columns are split, our capitalized data is capitalized. Any of the transformations that we made are applied here. There are a bunch of other things that you can do here as well. If you want to have your data formatted in a particular way, sorted in a particular way, if there are fields that are not applicable at all, but you want to have them here for calculations or other purposes, but you know you're not going to actually display them in a report, you can hide them. You can see that this one here is hidden. And you can also do things like add new columns that may be derived from existing data. You can see there's annual revenue and number of employees. What I can do is actually create a new column. We'll just call it annual revenue per employee.
Sorry about that. Apologize. Go ahead and play again.
And what you can see is as you start typing in this field that lets you create your new column, if I start typing number of employees, it actually goes and finds that there's a column in the accounts table called number of employees. I can click it or just hit tab in order to select that. And you can create your own formulas that will create a new derived value. In this case, you see that it drops in what I created. Now, this is a currency value, so I can go change its formatting to currency. And it will do that. And we also don't really have a need to show a lot of decimals as well. So we may just want to clean that up. These are the commonly used currency symbols. You can see there's a lot of flexibility here. We're going to switch this to 0 because we don't want any decimal places. And then once we do that, again, the data is reflected so that you can see in real time what's going to be shown when you actually pull it into a report. And once you've identified the types for all of these columns, again, in some cases, Power BI is going to be able to do that for you. But the reports will reflect, those data types by showing currency in the format that it should be. And you can tweak those as well. You can also add measures. You can think of a measure as a formula that's used to perform calculations on data in your model. And they're created using a language called DAX, or data analysis expressions. You may have used that if you have created formulas in Excel. They're recalculated dynamically as you apply different filters and slicers to the data in your reports. So one thing that we might want to do here is we have an opportunities table. One example of a measure, I'm just going to click new measure here. And it's going to give me, again, a very simple editor. I'm just going to paste this in. It's going to perform a SumX function on opportunities table, the value column of that. And when I hit OK, hit the checkbox, and it's going to add that, this is going to be a dynamically calculated value that I can put into my reports. So when I go back over here, this is not going to be pretty, but I'm going to look down from a list of visualizations here. I'm going to select a card just to show you this value. We'll just do a simple one here. And when I go down to opportunities, total opportunity value now that represents that measure. And we didn't format this one, so it isn't going to do that by default. But if I had done what I did with the other column and applied currency formatting, it would show it that way. But it's recalculating this. This right now represents all of the opportunities that we have across our whole data set. And we can label this, we can size this, we can put it wherever we want as a visualization inside here, but it's a dynamic value and it's recalculated. If we want to say, these are the opportunities that are related to a category called computers, it's going to recalculate and it's going to show, the calculation and the measure we provided that is only applied to what is selected, okay? And you can see that when I look at this little filter, it is showing what's affecting this visual that says, hey, we're only looking at the category of computers. So measures are a really powerful thing that you can, make as simple or complex as you want, but they're typically edited through the table view in here. That's where you're going to edit your measures. You can see that there's a lot of these that are created by default inside of this report. You can go ahead and explore those on your own. The other view that we want to take a look at is the model view. The model view shows you all the relationships between all of the different tables that you have. Your model may be fairly simple, it may be very complex. You may only have one table or you may have many. But this, if you're familiar with working in Access or in databases at all, You've probably seen a relationship model like this before. Again, we can help make sense of these complex data models if you have them. These are somewhat optional, again, to get into models of this complexity. But in terms of Power BI, you can take a look at the data pane here. And when you switch to model, this shows you all of, for example, the measures that you have across everything in your report. So this is kind of the metadata about your data. And it's another way to organize and be able to work with things. If you wanted to change some of the relationships here, some of the ways that filtering gets applied in your reports, this is the place that you would do that. So switching back to our report view, we've already looked at the ways that you can format your data through those other views. Once your data is in a place where you're ready to work with it, you're typically going to do the rest of your work in the report view. So Power BI reports are intended for interaction and visualization, unlike your old tabular reports. Each page is a canvas, really, containing interrelated visual components. You can filter that data that's shown on a per page basis. All of these filters here will basically be applied just to this specific page that we're showing in our report. But it's really neat. We already have seen the data that is all interacting behind the scenes also interacts here in your visuals. So when you select a particular category, every other visualization that's in this report is filtered accordingly. If we wanted to see in this key influencers, and I'll talk about these in a minute, if we select one of these influencers in here, that subset, again, gets filtered and applied to everything else that you're seeing. So the visualizations that are here, there are quite a few of them that are available out of the box. And you can also click to get more. There's a complete marketplace. You can also build your own. It's something we aren't going to be able to take the time to take a look at today, but you can build your own visualizations right within Power BI. You can, have developers on your teams create them and publish them so that they can be available to you and others. There are a lot of them that are out there that are free, some that are paid as well, but the ones that you get out of the box are pretty comprehensive. You have maps that will be able to show you, location-based data and a lot of your typical bar charts and other types. Some of the ones that are considered the more advanced ones and the newer ones, they have categorized here as AI visuals. These are the ones that are showcased by this particular report, and we'll take a look at those here briefly. But they basically utilize, machine learning behind the scenes. You plug in some values or not. In some cases, it's able just to look at your entire model. And for example, when you drop in this key influencers visualization, this is going to now show us what influences the status to be won or lost. We can switch back and forth. And this is just going to give you some really deep insights into your data. When the sales owner is Molly Clark, the likelihood of the status being won increases by 1.5 times in furniture. If I click this again to basically unselect it and make all the data available again, when our discount goes up 0.02, then the likelihood of winning a sales opportunity goes up by 2.76 times. And we can drill into that more and see what this discovered data is based upon. So this stuff is all just kind of done by adding and selecting a few parameters for each of these visualizations. Another one that you can see is on this decomposition tree page. This is one of my favorites. You can drill down inside of any given hierarchy of entities inside of your model. If I click on software here, you'll see that it shows me design apps and mobile apps compose our software category. And then further, by region, we can look at, design apps was the larger one and was picked by default. Well, what about mobile apps? You can see the breakdown by region of mobile apps. So again, all of these can be influenced by selecting different slices of data in different places. If you pick a different series in here, it'll show you, the percentage of total that series comprises, and that North America makes up that amount of software. So these are completely interrelated and interactive. Another one of the AI visuals is Q&A. This is preparing the Q&A. This has a very deep preparation that you can go through for this. You can set up lots of different synonyms for things to make natural language more recognizable based on things that are in your model. We're not going to go into all that, but you can basically type natural language queries here. And if you wanted to see, what a sales total was for region X, Y, or Z, you can type that in here, and it's going to give you back a little visualization of what that is. In this case, we're looking at one of the ones that was selected previously, revenue won by region, and it prepares and shows you that. So there are some additional things coming with Copilot as well that's in preview right now. And again, we don't have time to cover all of that, but they're going to give you an even deeper integration with generative AI to potentially be able to create an entire report like this from scratch with a data model. So you choose some data sources, and then by putting in a prompt, it's going to be able to give you a complete report with all of the things that you ask for in that prompt, created in a specific way. So that's an exciting new thing that's coming in preview form in Power BI and is going to be released soon. The last one here, as far as the AI visuals, is the narrative. And again, what this does is just puts in narrative form some of the insights that it's able to glean from your data by providing it with a few parameters. So, again, these are some of the more advanced visualizations that are available. One of the other things I'd like to show you here is that in addition to just these visualizations and being able to set, kind of top level filters that are always in place, you can, as one of the types of visualizations, and you will use these a lot, is to provide a slicer for your data. What a slicer is more or less a selector. Let's say we want to look at owners, and we'll look at sales owners. All I have to do is drag the data on, and what you'll see is that an entire list of our sales owners shows up in this slicer. And once I select this, I can go into formatting. I can look at my slicer settings. I can format it in different ways. If I want it to take up less space and be a drop down, I can do that. In this case, we'll keep it as a list. The selection process, I can force it to be single select only if I want, or I can select multiple values. So this is just to kind of show how you change your different options on your different visualizations. In this case, when we hold the control key, we can select multiples. And what you see, again, is happening. This is allowing us to narrow down the data and only show it as applicable to the specific sales owners. So we can choose as many or as few as we want. We can display a select all button to select everybody. And you can see that the slicer basically allows you, and you can have multiples of these on any given report, allows you to impact the data that's being viewed by doing exactly what it sounds like, which is slicing that data up. Publishing reports, once these are done, again, we can't really get into the specifics of having workspaces online. The licensed Power BI Pro and Premium products will give your company access to online workspaces where you can have department level workspaces that are set up for collaboration and sharing, which you can easily publish reports. You can save these report files, which are PBIX files. They can be, you can send it via email or another communication device to someone to be able to use that report. Sometimes, depending on the data, because again, remember, whenever you're connecting to data sources, it's loading that data into your report, it's pulling it down and storing it so that you always have a copy of it. Those files can get large sometimes, but you can put them on a network share for your company to have multiple people access those at once. there are a lot of different ways to share that data. You can also export your reports as snapshots if you wanted to export a PDF file to display some data. And you don't need to necessarily interact with what you're showing. You may be able to export a PDF file and share that as well. There are a lot of different features that are added monthly. There's a new drop, and your application in Power BI Desktop will be automatically updated whenever those updates happen. Like I mentioned, with the new true generative AI features that are going to be coming through Copilot and many others, you can get a summary on the intro screen when the application opens. It'll give you a link to be able to see what's new. In some cases, you can also go into your settings, and in here you can turn on preview features. If you read about something that is new that you want to check out, you can go into your settings, and in preview features you can check a box. Usually that'll require a restart, but if you want to look at the new button slicer visual, you can check that box, and it's going to prompt you when you hit OK to restart the app, and then that will be available. So lots of great new things like this DAX editor have been introduced in the last 6 months or so. This will let you kind of build and test out expressions in a nice, easy place where, again, there's a tabbed interface here that allows you to create multiple queries, and these will be stored in your model. So I hope you've enjoyed this kind of brief introduction to Power BI. Again, there's a lot to explore. We can, as 5-star, we can help you out with exploring your own data and building reports as well. But if there's anything further, you can present your questions in chat and we can answer those for you. Thank you. Okay, we're going to.
All right. Thank you so much, Corey, for creating that demo for us. Lou, let's just go ahead and check the chat and see if there's any particular questions around Power BI. Maybe we can take a question and then we can move into the Power Apps demo.
Great. Thanks, Doug. There are 2 questions if we have time for Corey. The first is, do you recommend using the Power BI desktop version?
Yeah, the desktop version does a pretty good job with all the features. You can edit reports in the web version of the tool, but again, the desktop version is generally going to be better and more powerful. It is, and like I mentioned, it's free to use. So yeah, anybody can download and use that, and it generally is more performant than the web version.
Thank you. And the second question is, how is data updated from external sources?
That's a good question. It gets a little bit deeper. There are different types of ways of accessing data. There's a direct query that will let you, grab something in real time, which might be nice, to be able to do that with a database or something else. But the downside of that is that's a lot of bandwidth that's needed and data that flows back and forth, so that process can be slow. The flip side is that data can be cached, which it is by default. So most data sources that you connect to, that data comes and lives in your report, and then every time you change around your visuals, it reflects that. And then only when you manually hit refresh is it going to go back out and retrieve, a refreshed set of data, and again store that locally. That's usually the better way of doing things. But again, you can choose that when you make a connection to a data source.
Great, thank you. That's it for questions, Doug.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Lou. Thank you, Corey, for doing that. Appreciate it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move into the Power Apps demo. And after that, we'll follow up with some additional questions in the chat.
We're going to take a quick look at Power Apps. Power Apps are a low-code web and mobile platform which allow you to build custom business apps quickly, and as with the other Power Platform solutions, connect to just about any service or data wherever it lives. We're going to take a brief tour through editing a Power App and show you some of their capabilities and how easy it is to create them. So to create a Power App, you log into the Power App dashboard, and you can use one of a few different starting points. You can start with Copilot for a more generative AI based approach to initially creating an app and then using that to help build your app. You can start with data. You can start with a specific page design if you have that in mind, or you can start with an app template, and they have quite a few of these. Again, if you have a data source in mind, you can select that and choose multiple tables, for example, to start your application from, or you can see there's quite a list of initial app templates from inventory management to capturing meetings, fundraisers. You can see there's two main types. There's a model-driven app and a Canvas app. Model-driven apps are built on Dataverse, which is a database that originated with Microsoft Dynamics, which is their CRM product. If you have an app that works with lots of large data sets and workflows, and you want a unified user experience and don't need extensive customization of your UI, then those are for you. On the flip side, Canvas apps will let you start with a blank UI and allow controls to be drag and dropped anywhere, as well as integration with multiple data sources. So if you need tailored task-specific apps with a unique user experience, then Canvas apps are for you. They tend to be utilized more often. We'll also be taking a look at the My Expenses app here as a starting point in just a minute. But rather than that, maybe you wanted to start with Copilot. And in this case, what it asks you for is a prompt in order to give it a good starting point. So let's tell it we want a facility inspection and maintenance app that's designed for managers to conduct inspections and log activities and things like that. So we give it this description, and it puts together its idea of what might be representative data. So we have some facility names and IDs, dates and times of these inspections, what the activity was, and a few other things. So then you can say, what do you want to have changed? Add a reported by field. So it can go ahead and do that. If there's anything you don't like about the data that it's provided, if there's something that's unnecessary or something that it missed, and it says the table's been updated. So, okay, these are all reported by Jane. So we're going to go ahead. This looks fine. We're going to just create the app. And what it's going to do is provide an initial screen. And that screen is going to have a list of all of the data that's in this table and the ability to view each of the individual items once they're selected, add new ones, edit existing ones, or search for them. And yeah, you can see it gives us a form with facility inspection and maintenance. This control over here has the ability for us to select different items in it. And when you select those items, it's going to bring up all the details inside of this details pane, and you can either edit those or delete those. So you can continue working from this point with Copilot and give it more details. If it gives you some suggestions, you can have it continue to help you build, or you can start from here and work on your own. We're going to switch over and take a look at the My Expenses app. This is one of the templates that I mentioned, and we'll talk a little bit about the interface and what it contains. So up at the top, we have an action bar or the ribbon, and that contains a lot of different actions that you're going to use, like inserting new controls. You can search for or select a control, and that'll insert that into the canvas in the center here, which is showing the current screen that you're working on. You can also add data. And if you want to create a new connection, as with the other Power Platform solutions, there are hundreds of available data sources and services and databases and document types and other things that you can connect to. So you would select that, provide credentials or whatever's necessary, and then be able to select data that you can then insert into your app. You can create new screens from a handful of default layouts that are provided. You can change your themes, your background colors, background images. You can go into your settings, and if there are preview features that you want to turn on or off, you can do that in here as well. You can also share this and select, what security groups inside of your organization are going to have access to your apps. There's an app checker which will run and tell you if there are any issues. Let's say there's a control that requires a data source and you haven't wired up that data source. It'll tell you that. Or if there's any particular areas that say, hey, you're going to be trying to load a lot of data at once, that may impact your performance. It'll give you those types of tips and things. You can press F5 or press the run button to preview your app and test it out. You can save at any time by clicking this or Control S, and then you can publish your app as well. Over on the left side is the navigation pane. This lets you, again, do inserting. The default view is the tree view, which is a hierarchical view of your entire app. These top level items are your screens, and you can drill down, and you'll notice when you select things, then they become selected inside of your canvas. And then over here on the right is your property inspector. And again, that's context sensitive. And whenever you select an item in here, a control on your screen, it switches to that control and shows you all the properties that you can edit there. So the main properties involve all sorts of things in regards to layout, fonts, colors, etc., as well as the data that's shown there. For example, this is a button, and when that button is clicked, it sets a variable called expense status to open. And in this case, when we click pending, it sets that expense status to pending. And as you might imagine, the list that is below that, this is a gallery control. That list and its values will change every time you select a different status here. So when we select approved or all or open, it filters the list. So that, those are a couple of the things that you can change through the property inspector. So as we saw, testing an app is really straightforward. One of the other things that you can do, notice whenever I'm clicking, I'm selecting things. You can also select the Alt, hold down the Alt key. And when you do that, it actually will let the app behave as if it would when it's running. So you can kind of test things out and do that just by holding the Alt key. And then as soon as you let go, it goes back to kind of the default selection mode. That's a nice shortcut to be able to kind of test your app without actually running it. Let's go in and add some data to our app. So I select add data and I choose a SQL server that we've already connected to. And let's select the user table here. So when I say connect, it's going to connect to my database in real time, and it's going to add this user entity to my application. Now, if I was to say I want to add a new screen, and let's make it a list screen, it's going to create kind of an initial screen with what's called a gallery control here. And the gallery control lets you display a list of things, and it also gives you the ability to edit these things and show the individual parts of them that you would like shown. And in this case, we're going to want to change this to reflect our new user. So I select the entire gallery and I go to advanced, and you can see that there, under the items property here, it's showing the dummy data that it had inserted for us. I want to get rid of that, and I'll start typing user, and you can see that it knows one of the things that I want to potentially use is a user data item. So I put that there. Oops. And as soon as I do that, it starts populating with the actual data for the users. And in this case, the item that it chose to show by default, when I select this label, is an email. Well, let's say instead of an email, I mean, the main item we want to show when it comes to a user is their username, is their actual name. So if we put this item dot last name, and then put in a comma and a space, and then their first name, you can put formatting, stuff like that in here, and you'll see that it shows last name, comma, first. And then we want to say up top here, rather than this division, then let's say we want to show, What else do we have? If I hit period, it's going to give me a list. Let's say title. So now we have a list of all of our users and their titles. So everything about this is completely editable. You can use these screen templates to start out with, and then modify just about anything about them and the data that they're attached to and everything else. You can save things, and then once your changes are saved, you can go ahead and publish. When you publish, you can leave specific version notes to indicate, okay, we added a new screen to allow you to search for users, whatever you like, and then hit save, and your new version of your app will then be published. Then once your app is published and shared with the users that you want to share it to, it will appear in your list of apps, and you can go ahead and run that. Alternatively, you can download on your mobile device, your iOS or your Android device. There's a Microsoft Power Apps app that you can run, and your list of apps will show up there, and you can access any of them and run any of them right on your mobile device as well. So yeah, you can see this works just like the app that we edited. And one of the other things that's kind of a nice feature is that you can actually wrap these apps. If you want to create a native iOS or Android app and distribute that through the channels on those stores or through your enterprise, you can do that as well. So obviously, there are a lot of incredible uses for apps like this. If you have line of business apps, proprietary spreadsheet-based forms that are full of macros, if you have Microsoft Access apps, all of these are prime candidates for converting into Power Apps. So for some of the more complex cases, which might require some deeper integrations and multi-layered designs, 5-Star can help you create those. And these are going to end up being a breeze to maintain and add on to, even for folks who may not consider themselves very tech savvy. So that's it for our first look at Power Apps. Go explore and enjoy.
Right. Great. Thank you again, Corey, for putting together a great demo. So Lou, why don't we go ahead and check the chat again and see if there's a question that we can answer regarding Power Apps.
We have two questions for Corey. The first is, how do you access or connect Power Apps and Power Automate with Power BI?
That can be done a few different ways. From Power BI, you can launch Power Apps. You can trigger Power Automate flows. We're going to take a look at Power Automate in a minute. Those are some of the common ways. You can do some embedding of Power BI visuals inside of Power Apps and things like that too. Each of them do connect to the others, and there are some licensing nuances that come into play with that, but the interfaces themselves where you can utilize these tools and build them all have the integrations right there. So you can click on a button to be able to kind of kick that off. And yeah, this is definitely something that we're going to probably take a look at in a future session, but all of them have the ability to be connected to and utilized within the others for sure.
Thank you. Doug, do we have time for another question?
Sure, let's do it. Mm-hmm.
Can I create an app in a testing environment first?
Yes. You can set up different environments in Power Apps, and they can be, departmental in nature. They can be representative of a staging, test, production, development, kind of environment. Again, the way that licensing works, licenses are applied to apps on a per environment basis, but you definitely can have multiple environments so that you can be, working on features before you roll them out to kind of a production.
Great, thank you. That's it, Doug.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Corey. So we're going to go ahead and get moving forward with the Power Automate demo. Just want to let you know, just kind of check on time. We're running a few minutes, a little bit longer than what we had planned for. So we may run into maybe 105. I'm sorry, 205. Certainly understand if a few people might need to drop off. We just want to let you know, if you're able to stay on to that time, we'll certainly run through the last demo and answer any questions that you have. All right, let's get started.
Power Automate is all about streamlining your business processes, whether those involve cloud-based services that may not require human intervention or those that employees perform daily from their own computers. Once you log into the Power Automate dashboard, which you see here, you can go to My Flows to view your cloud and your desktop flows, as well as those that have been shared with you by others. You can start new flows from here. You can also, for desktop flows, we'll take a brief look at this. You can use Power Automate Desktop. This app handles automating repetitive tasks in Windows apps or your browser, often referred to as RPA or robotic process automation. These desktop flows can be recorded directly as you perform them, or entered and edited manually in the desktop app. You can see that application here. This is one of the samples that involves sharing a PowerPoint file as a PDF. So this shows all of the steps that are involved in opening that PowerPoint file, exporting it to a PDF, and then sending an email to notify somebody. You can edit all of the specifics around any of these steps. You can reorder your steps. You can add new ones. You can start recording in the middle. You can delete them. You can add new actions over here on the left side. You can see just about anything you can do on your computer, file-based actions, adding, deleting, renaming files, browser-based actions, creating a new tab, clicking on a link. All of these kinds of things can be utilized inside of your flows. In the settings for the application, you can also install a special service that will even allow unattended execution if you want to have your machine running but locked, and you want to have flows be able to be executed from the cloud portal across multiple machines. You can do that as well. There's a lot of uses for this. We're going to take a little bit of a deeper look instead at the cloud-based flows. Cloud flows all have some kind of trigger followed by a flow of actions, and your trigger can be one of a few different types. An instant flow can be executed manually with the push of a button. A scheduled flow can be a one-time or a recurring flow based on time, and other flows may be triggered by events like an incoming web or API request from another service, or when a file is created in SharePoint, for example. You can start a blank flow with any of these, or you can use one of hundreds of templates that are out there. These are easy to kind of look through if you want to get an email whenever there's a new tweet about a certain keyword. There's a flow for that. You can kind of sort these by remote work or data collection or email. You can search for different services to see some examples of how they might be implemented. Just as many as there are, connectors that we've seen previously, there are a huge number of possibilities here. One of the new ways of being able to create is from an AI prompt. So if we say that we want a Word document, when a Word document is created in the SharePoint location, to copy it to another folder in SharePoint, change the file name to add the date to it, and then send an email. If we say to generate based on that, it's going to give us a suggested flow, which generally makes sense. You can ask for a different suggestion if you don't like what it's providing. Then it's going to let you review the different apps and services that are involved. It may require you to log into those if you haven't already. And then you go ahead and say to create it, and it gives you a blank canvas here with a new flow on it, and allows you to go from there. In most cases, this is going to do a fairly good job of getting you to a starting point. And you can see that it has done largely what we asked. It has a trigger that has to do with when a file is created, and then it's going to copy that file and send an email. I'm going to kind of do the cooking show trick and switch over to a version that I've kind of already edited that has a few more things in place, but that is a really good way to kind of get started. You want to start with a fairly simple prompt, or get as detailed as possible about all the specifics that you want to have included, and it does a pretty good job. This is the trigger, and you can see when I select the trigger or any action that this Explorer comes up on the left side. It gives you all the details that you need to fill in. The required fields are highlighted. In this case, we need to provide a site address and a library name. This is the folder where we're going to be looking for files. And then we have to say, how often are we going to check for those? In this case, it's every minute we're going to be looking for new files that get created. And then later on, you can see that we have this condition here. If you wanted to create a new action, you can click anywhere in between or at the end and select to add an action. And you can see that there are these control actions. A condition like we have here allows you to check for a series of and or expressions. You can apply to each. Sometimes you're going to get a flow that has a collection of things like files in a folder, and you want to do something to each of those. You can do a do until, so you can repeat an action until a condition changes. There are a whole bunch of these. There are also, if we look at just the built-in actions, things that are related to date time, data operations. We can create files. We can save variables and things to use later on. There are scheduling things. So there's a whole bunch that are built in. And when we switch to all, you can see, again, a huge number of different services and things that we can connect to perform actions. But if we take a brief look inside here, this condition, we're looking for a file name that contains .docx. So if that is true, then we're dealing with a Word document, so it's going to follow this path. If that condition is false, then we follow this path. And we've added in a little terminate action here that's going to end the flow with canceled. It's not going to fail, it's just going to show up as canceled. So if we drop an image into this SharePoint folder, it'll go here and say it was canceled. But if we do have a Word document, then there's an action that's going to get the file content. So we have an identifier that's provided here when the file is created, and we're going to get the content. Then we're going to have an action that creates the file. It's going to create the file with a file name that we get with a function. It may look a little bit complex when it comes to the low code part of the solution, and this is where the low code comes in. There are expressions that you can provide for working with strings of text, working with dates, performing logical expressions and other types of things. And it does a good job of being able to lay those out and let you know the information you need to provide. So if you want to dive into these, you may have done some of these kinds of things in Excel or other places. But what we're doing here is we're taking the original file name, we're inserting a date, and then we're putting the extension that was there before on it. That's all that this does. But you can see that we have this, which allows us to edit expressions like we have here. And then the other important thing to point out is that when we click that little lightning bolt, you can see that there are outputs from any of the previous steps that we've encountered in the flow. Any of those outputs from a previous step is available to us. So in this case, we're going to take the file content that was retrieved from the previous get file content action. And then in the email here, we have a bunch of static text, but we also can insert the file name that was created. The creator, we can get the author of that document as well. And then there's a function in here that allows us to just insert the date and time. So any of the things, like I said, that are exposed through a previous action are available to us in here. And again, it does a really good job of making it easy. If you want to perform calculations with these things or insert them into emails, you can do anything you like with data from a previous step. So once we're done, we'll go ahead and save this flow. There's a flow checker, and if there was anything like a field that was required that you didn't provide information for, or a calculation that doesn't work properly, it'll prompt you for those. You can go ahead and test it. In our case, we have a time-based flow. So as soon as we save this time-based flow, when we go back, we'll see that we can take a look at the available runs. And this has been saved before and it has run before. But since we're checking every minute, if I want to go in and drop a couple of files into this input folder, which is what I've done, I've got an image file and I've got a document file. Every minute it's checking for that. And you can see that in this case, the flow ran, and in the output folder, it creates a version of this document file. It ignores the image, but the document file gets moved over and it gets appended with the date. And I get an email. So the email dynamically is sent. It includes the file information, the creator, and the date for that. So the flow worked. And if we want to go back and look at that just real quick, we can see, and by clicking on any of the flows, that all of the steps here, we can drill down into it, all of the steps completed successfully. And in all of the places where there was data involved, we can see all of that data. And that comes in especially handy in cases where there were failures. If we want to drill into one of the flows that happened earlier on, I can see in the run details that there was a problem with an expression in here, and you can see exactly where that action failed inside of here. So this is super handy to go back in. You can make some tweaks and you can resubmit, or you can go in and re-edit your flow and run it again. So Power Automate allows you to streamline all of your business workflows, whether they're cloud-based or desktop-based. And you can get started with very little technical knowledge. You can trigger your automations from a Power App or a Power BI report, which we may dive into in a future session. And as with all of the Power Platform offerings, there are plenty of learning resources and samples to explore. You can probably already think of a few areas that could be optimized within your organization by a Power Automate flow. And we'd be happy to talk about designing or implementing the more complex ones that may take you beyond your comfort zone.
All right. Again, Corey, thank you so much for recording these and producing these demos. I hope that these were very helpful. Lou, why don't we go ahead and check the chat and see if we have any questions around Power Automate, and then I think based upon time we can wrap up the webinar.
Sure, Doug. Just one. Can a flow be triggered by receiving an email?
Well, was that can a flow be triggered from an email?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. There can be some restrictions with that, but if it's a corporate email through Microsoft Exchange, yes, you can have emails be able to trigger flows, and then again, you can kind of set things up so that, you know, depending on who it's from or what the subject is, or, you know, even in like an AI summary of the content, you know, is this an extremely, you know, is it a complaint-based email or something? You know, you can use those types of criteria to be able to direct things inside of your flows. But yeah, emails can definitely be used as triggers.
Thank you. That's it, Doug.
Yep. Corey, I guess the last question I have is maybe if you want to touch on anything in regards to, you know, where some of the, you know, audience members may be able to go and reach out to begin to explore any type of licensing that they need to acquire for Microsoft Power Platform. Yeah, the licensing can get kind of complicated. One of the things that you want to check out is Microsoft's learning site, learn.microsoft.com, has knowledge-based articles that touch on licensing. So highly recommend checking those out. There are a variety of different options for kind of per user and per organization and per capacity type licensing. But again, we can help sort those things out. If you have specific questions about licensing too, we can follow up with you on that stuff. We can put we have links to those things I think we can put in the chat too. Yep. Okay. Fantastic. Yeah, please do. And we'll make sure that everyone gets that information when we follow up with the recorded link and follow-up email. So again, listen, really appreciate everybody taking time for this webinar. I know we went a few minutes over, but we do hope that the information was helpful to you as you begin to explore Power Platform and see how it can be leveraged within your company to help grow and accelerate your opportunities. If you have any additional questions, you can see here my contact information. Be happy to connect with you and answer any questions that you have, and certainly would love an opportunity to talk with you about how 5-Star might be able to support your Power Platform solutions and any type of custom software solutions that you might be looking at deploying this year. So again, thank you so much for joining the webinar. I wish you best for the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And please look for the follow-on email, which will include the recorded link. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon.